it's always made me wonder how much of this is actual spectacle, how much of this is, let's say, the again, over imagination of a hyperactive Fringe, or how much of this is actual legitimate ritual, or let's say mass media manipulation. And I think you could probably make a legit case for all of these things, okay? And as you know me, I like to look at all the angles here, and sometimes the angle doesn't have to be the woo angle. It could be the, well, what if we're imagining things here? And maybe just Sportsball is the bread and circuses, and that's all it is. By the way, it's tied at the end of regulation, and now we have overtime. But anyway, I don't know who won the Puppy Bowl. That's actually a who knows, right? That's one I didn't watch. I was too busy trying to put this show together and had massive technical difficulties. I tried to actually reboot the computer just before we started. It didn't it just froze. It was just like sitting there. I'm like, hey, come on, we got things to do. There's a schedule to keep. Come on, people. Anyway, so we got it fixed. But I mean, it's strange to me. Like I said, this whole thing, right, with the Super Bowl halftime, that whole bit, and the ritual aspect, and the satanic. Again, like every year, there's like a new satanic panic based on who's playing the Super Bowl. You remember the Beyonce one, and remember, pretty much every year there's like a really bizarre happening. That's everybody's like, oh, yep, satanic symbolism, yep. And again, I'm not saying, that stuff isn't real. Of course it is. But how much of this is sort of baked into the idea of, well, where we're at? And the hyperactive fringe of a collective sports ball ritual, which is exactly what I'm talking about tonight. So basically it's like this. How does this fit? How much of this do you believe? And of course, regarding control mechanisms and all the rest, we talk about this stuff often on Troubled Minds, okay? But the deal is specifically that how much of this do you think is a sort of actual control mechanism manipulation through a more insidious play here, meaning, that satanic ritualism or other things, which we'll get into a bunch of that stuff tonight. But how deep does this rabbit hole go? How much do you think is actually more, let's say, marketing hype and the rest of that stuff? Or how much is, let's say, well, I don't know, Satan has returned, right? And again, I say all that halfway tongue-in-cheek because I don't really know the answers to these. As usual, these conversations are nonlinear, open-ended, and there's no truth to be found here. All the disclaimers apply that I'm not here trying to tell you the truth about anything. I'm just here to explore wild possibilities and consider those things and have a conversation with you guys. So the phone line is, I think it should be working. I'll get that fired up during the commercial here, but at the bottom of the hour. So we are taking your calls tonight if you want to be part of the show. When we fire up the phone lines, it'll be 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org, and we'll take phone calls there as well. We're on Discord, and that is working. That has been working, and everything seems to be purring like a kitty in that sense. Let's go straight to this. Now, like I said, I do have the game on that the Niners are my team, but I'm really not that big of a sports ball fan. I mean, I'm just not. There's obviously a lot more, let's say, interesting things to consider and talk about. As if you know anything about me and anything about Troubled Minds, you would probably agree on that. But I do think there's a weird instance where these sort of elements, these themes, kind of come together. And tonight's a perfect example of that, because we've talked about sort of that human resonance of the zeitgeist itself and how you can kind of pump energy into it or draw energy from it or manipulate that energy, or in different ways with the egregores, this type of thing, right? But tonight specifically, we're in Sin City. Okay, again, I'm always in Sin City. I live in Las Vegas, as you know, but it's been kind of a wild weekend. They say there's over 500,000 additional people here this weekend just for the Super Bowl, just to watch and just to bet. And the cheapest ticket was like 10 grand to get in, something like this. I mean, wild stuff all the way around, and it's kind of been interesting to be sort of on the ground floor driving around all week and seeing them, put up all the stuff, and there's like Super Bowl banners everywhere along the strip, and it's wild. It's a pretty wild thing. And here we go, overtime, and there you go. So anyway, so what do you know about it? And again, like me, every time I watch sort of these sort of post-mortem Super Bowl breakdowns with symbolism and all the rest of this stuff, it makes me wonder specifically how much of it is real. And that becomes the point here. That becomes exactly the deal, what we're thinking about, what we're talking about tonight. So let me go to the right up here, and then we'll get to into more of this stuff. But specifically, it was Usher, by the way. It was Usher that was running the Super Bowl halftime show. I think Alicia Keys was there. Who else? I saw Lil Jon. Look, whatever. That's the type of stuff where I kind of wasn't, it's not my job really to kind of break down that symbolism. Everybody else does it. And the reason why I don't is because everybody else does. And they do a really good job of it. So there's no need for me additionally to be like, okay, let's try and spot the esoteric symbolism and the Satanism in these halftime shows, right? Let the people that are good at it do it. It's not really my thing. What's up? Todd says it's not real. Okay, it's not real. Whatever. Maybe. That's why we have a conversation here. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But anyway, so let's see. Let's go straight to the right up here and give me a minute because I'm all pumped up here and excited because it's overtime. But here you go. So this is exactly the epitome of what we're talking about tonight. Specifically, straight to the right up. If you guys want to check that out, I do encourage you to. It is fantastic. It was written, by the way, by the latest and greatest of AI, which is Google Gemini. We're going to talk about that. I almost did a show on that tonight, but James, shout out James Salcedo out there, the paranormal, Salcedo Paranormal, you know him, you love him. He actually came up with a fantastic idea tonight, which we'll get to in a second, regarding this hyperactive fringe, the collective sports ball ritual. But over here, real quick to the right up, let me catch my breath and read a little bit of this. 1 second. Yes. The roaring stadium, the dazzling lights, the world seemingly unites each Super Bowl Sunday in a frenzy of anticipation. This is a collective experience at its peak. We understand how events like these foster a sense of shared identity, bridging even bitter divides. Such heightened emotional states leave us primed for shared enthusiasm, catharsis, even awe. Yes. But what is this powerful force? The collective mind fostered by a mass event. What if it's not used for celebration, but of course manipulation? This raises deeply unsettling questions about pop culture's behemoths. Imagine the halftime show with its captive global audience, not as pure entertainment, but a psychological experiment on a mind primed for suggestion. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. MK Ultra for the masses, right? But could the spectacle itself be the distraction? While our conscious attention is bedazzled with lights and choreography, symbols evoking fear, unease, or raw primordial power could work on our subconscious. They tap into pre-existing anxieties, amplifying the intensity of the experience without us being fully aware of their impact, which is, again, very much, MK Ultra for the masses 101. All kinds of things happening in the mass media. We're just sort of participants to this and dealing with the situation as it comes and goes, and not even really aware many times, or even most times, let's say, that we're being manipulated by some larger, let's say, puppet master or whatever that looks like, okay? And some people say it's the ruling elite. Some people say it's, this or that or the other thing. Look, again, no answers, just more wild ideas. But of course, this isn't necessarily about overt brainwashing in particular. It's a far more subtle game. Advertisers understand this, of course, carefully gauging emotional resonance to sell products, which we very much know. But could ideas be sold just as easily? The ideas of suggestion. Could even political or social ideologies worm their way in undetected, using this unique state of mind to leave us more susceptible? And I think the answer is definitely yes. But the question becomes, how deep does that rabbit hole go? That's really the specific bit here. And is there, I don't know, some satanic influence every year at the actual Super Bowl and this type of stuff? I don't really know. I do know that sometimes it's easy to spot. Sometimes you can kind of find what you're looking for, sort of that human aspect of, well, I'm going to go looking for it, and so I expect to see it, and then so I'm kind of making something up where something's not there. You know what I mean? Again, not saying it's not real, not saying it is real, saying that it's easy for people, and that's why I'm calling this the hyperactive fringe, to kind of see things that may or may not be there. And clearly it's obvious if you're summoning a portal on stage and representing like a demon coming out of a portal or something. I mean, that becomes incredibly easy to spot and point out and be like, well, I don't know, I think they're trolling us, right? Or maybe they're really trying to do something a little more insidious than that. But I think in the larger sense of the game here, but not just like the game, the sports ball game, but the ritual aspect of it, it does make me wonder if there are more of these sort of subtle symbols that are doing all manner of things. And that's where we're at. Let's see, what do we got? Back to this. So it's tempting to dismiss all of this, as I said, as an overreaction. All this, the hidden symbolism and all the rest. A fear of hidden agendas where there's only pop stars and fireworks. Yet, when the most mundane symbols can shift and change change meaning across cultures and eras, we cannot overlook their manipulative potential, especially under the psychological circumstances of an event like the Super Bowl. And it is, like I said, here in Vegas, it's supercharged. It's people are super excited about this. And I mean, fine, it's a football game. It's unfortunate that it's kind of like concussion ball is what it's become, right? Where what they say that each actual NFL player is an equivalent of 2.5 car crashes each game or something, right? Or something like that, a car crash and a half. I don't know. I mean, that part's unfortunate because there's a lot of these guys end up with brain damage and not even when they get old, when they're like 40. I mean, that's not old. But anyway, it just seems like it's very Roman Colosseum-esque. You know what I mean? Where these guys just kind of lump their bodies against each other. Everybody cheers it on, bets and all the rest. And and then maybe there's something else at play here. And that's what's on my mind tonight as I watch the overtime bit here and consider who might actually win this game. I mean, it'd be cool if the Niners won. I'm a Niners fan, but what do I get for it? I mean, am I going to brag to the other football team fans or something? I mean, come on, what do I get for it, right? And that becomes a weird part of this. Everybody is so emotionally charged into this, and why though? Why? It's just I don't know. It is weird to me. All this is weird to me, but equally strange is that hyperactive fringe where this kind of turns into every single year. It's here's what I mean. Let's say this. If there are actual, let's say, satanic messages flowing through the halftime show and even through, let's say, the greater mass media with the commercials and the whole spectacle and everything else, right? The press, etc. Well, and we're looking for them. Don't you think that it maybe sort of undermines the message? You see what I'm saying? That you could be sneaky about it and then probably affect a bunch more people than have overt Satanism in your actual halftime show is kind of what I mean here. And that becomes the most obvious thing to me. That's okay, wait. So if they know we're looking for it and they're doing this anyway, are they trolling? Are they just trolling us? Are they just this will really make those conspiracy theorists talk? Yeah, maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe it's not. Yeah, Biff from Back to the Future, right? Yeah. I don't know. And that's why I think this is incredibly. I don't know. It's been a weird week here in Vegas just because of this and because of the situation of the game and all the people here. The traffic was nuts on Thursday and Friday as people were coming into town, and so I'm kind of in the middle of it in one way, but it does make me wonder exactly what the hell is happening in terms of that larger sense. Now, back to what James was saying and why how James inspired this show tonight, and a couple things to look at real quick. So I got this. So James, actually, let's just tell you how this rolled out. So Brian Romilly, which I talk about often on Twitter, shout out Brian Romilly. He's in Vegas actually right now, and he's running an experiment. And what is that experiment? Well, he's doing something called the Global Consciousness Project. Okay, he says precognition behavior on this Global Consciousness Project I have never seen as halftime breaks. Global coherence. It was a massive, almost instant release. And so they're measuring sort of the zeitgeist, the actual, let's say, let's go to the website and explain this probably a little better than I could. But this exact thing right here, it's called the noosphere. Princeton.edu is where they're tracking this. And it's the actual Global Consciousness Project. And here's the probably blurb that's more important, breaks it down very succinctly. The Global Consciousness Project is an international, multidisciplinary collaboration of scientists and engineers. We collect data continuously from a global network of physical random number generators located in up to 70 host sites around the world at any given time. The data are transmitted to a central archive, which now contains more than 15 years of random data in parallel sequences of synchronized 200-bit trials generated every second. Now, that's complicated, right? But here's the deal. It means this. So our purpose is to examine subtle correlations that may reflect the presence and activity of consciousness in the world. We hypothesize that there will be structure in which should be random data associated with major global events that engage our minds and hearts. And so that's what Brian Romilly is out here doing tonight. He's actually tracking this in Vegas, really testing scientifically the power of the zeitgeist as the highs and lows of this sports ball spectacle kind of flow through the moment, okay? Which is incredible to me. Again, follow Brian Romley on Twitter. Links in the description, or will be. Then I saw this. We were chatting. James and I were chatting before the game, and he was talking about the Brian Romley thing, and I was like, sweet, he's here in Vegas. He's doing some stuff. And then this article pops up in my feed from SciPost.org. Headline is this: Collective Mind Bridges Societal Divides. Psychology research explores how watching the same thing can bring people together. Oh, you don't say. Almost like they were reading our mind. And this is from February 11th, which today is February 11th, Super Bowl day. And yes, indeed, here we are. Answers few, questions many, but this is the type of stuff that I think you kind of can't shake when it comes to, let's say, synchronicities. And everything kind of came together nicely, and the game is still on, and it's overtime, and, whatever. I mean, but how much of this is real? How much of this sort of zeitgeist ritual kind of flows through what we're dealing with, and how much of it is more insidious than we ever dreamed? That exactly, my friends, is what's on my mind tonight. Don't mind me as I'm breathless. I was trying to get everything running and nothing was working. And anyway, here we are. Let's do this, and we'll take a quick break, get the phone lines up, and hopefully talk to you guys. But what do you know about this? It is a wild thing, like I said, and I do wonder if it is sort of the musings of this hyperactive fringe, because, well, maybe, just maybe, this is what we're dealing with, and maybe, just maybe, even though we do drink the maybe juice on Troubled Minds, I gotta wonder if breaking down these esoteric ritual elements of halftime every year of the Super Bowl is, well, I don't know, meaningful or not. That becomes the question. We often consider the idea of the zeitgeist surging elements of mystery and even bizarre, let's say, esoteric ideas that are meant to manipulate us or change our minds about even, let's say, political ideologies and other insidious things. Now, what if a lot of that is nonsense? Or what am I missing regarding it? I don't know. It seems like when we get to the same spot every year and it's the same Super Bowl, kind of breaking it down. I mean, it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting, but it becomes sort of the question in my mind is how much of this should we take seriously? And that really becomes, again, a very Troubled Mind style question, because look, I'm downplaying it right now because I'm sort of playing the foil to these ideas specifically, because let's talk about it. Let's consider this. Let's maybe, what am I missing that you guys know that is actually, let's say, at play here? And I think specifically this scientific aspect of it, the Global Consciousness Project, is pretty cool. And again, Brian Romley, shout out. He's out there doing this right now, doing the science on this, probably tracking what happened as they tied it up to go into overtime, probably tracking like the final minutes of this game, which the Niners have taken a 3-point lead in case anybody cares. And now Kansas City has a chance to match or win with a touchdown. And that's that. It'll be a wrap or whatever, right? We'll see. But in any case, I don't really know the larger aspect, but I do know that there's a lot of science here to suggest, again, specifically with our, sort of our heart, let's say, frequencies. They say that when you hug people or, when you're in close proximity like that, there is an exchange of energy, like actual true energy happening. And of course, when you extrapolate that and look in the largest sense and, kind of filter them through this collective mind, as we're calling this tonight, it seems like maybe there is something a little bit more at play. So I can see both sides of this. But what do you believe, and how deep does it go? Is anybody into football? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. I would imagine if you're into football, you're probably not listening to this. You're probably watching the game. But I think this type of stuff is resonant in a lot of ways, and I think we should consider how much of this is actually at play. And, well, there you go. Nope and nope. I'm glad Todd has all the answers. Appreciate that, buddy. Welcome to the thing. Let's go to James in Michigan. What's up, my man? Salcedo Paranormal. Thanks for helping me with the concept of this as we were kind of kicking it this afternoon, doing some other weird stuff. But if you hadn't pointed out that Brian Romley thing, I found it just after you did. But us kind of kicking the cosmic soccer ball back and forth certainly inspired this idea. Then this synchronistic article from SciPost.org pops up, and it's like, well, I guess, James, this is the show tonight.